night the ladies get on a Zoom call, and some of the same players that said, yeah, we'll authorize a strike, now those same players are saying, maybe we should take the deal. My money's drying.
In the high-stakes, cutthroat ecosystem of corporate labor negotiations, there is a fundamental, terrifying rule that every single successful executive knows by heart. If you are going to walk into a boardroom, look a group of ruthless billionaires directly in the eyes, and threaten to burn their multi-billion-dollar empire to the ground, you absolutely cannot be bluffing. You must be mathematically, psychologically, and financially prepared to pull the trigger and watch the entire industry collapse. If the opposition senses even a microscopic fraction of hesitation, if they detect a single bead of sweat on your forehead, or a single dissenting whisper in your ranks, the war is instantly over. You do not just lose the negotiation, you are systematically humiliated, financially starved, and completely stripped of every ounce of leverage you thought you possessed. For the past 3 months, the WNBA Players Association has been operating under the catastrophic delusion that they were the ones holding the gun. They proudly paraded their near-unanimous December vote to authorize a league-wide strike, drunk on the global momentum of the Caitlin Clark economy. They genuinely believed that by threatening to cancel the most highly anticipated season in the history of women's sports, the ownership groups would panic and surrender to their unprecedented demands for a 27.5% gross revenue share. But the billionaires did not panic. They did not blink. They simply locked the casino doors, turned off the oxygen, and waited for the players to slowly suffocate. And right now, as the cold, unforgiving reality of the March 10th deadline approaches, the players' union is experiencing a total, catastrophic internal collapse. The rank-and-file players are suddenly waking up to the horrifying realization that their bank accounts are empty, their leverage is a phantom, and their union leadership has marched them directly off a financial cliff. Welcome to the breakdown. Let us expose the psychological annihilation of the WNBA Players Association, the terrifying logistical trap set by the owners, and the unprecedented corporate coup currently being orchestrated by the most powerful agents in the sport. To truly grasp the absolute state of panic currently tearing through the locker rooms of the WNBA, you have to surgically dissect the fatal, irreversible psychological trap the players walked into back in December. When the union held its strike authorization vote, the players were operating in an emotional vacuum. They were high on the adrenaline of sold-out arenas, record-breaking television ratings, and the unprecedented cultural spotlight generated by Caitlin Clark's rookie campaign. They were angry about decades of low wages, commercial flights, and disrespect from the sporting world. When the union leadership asked for the power to strike, the players enthusiastically voted yes, believing it was simply a symbolic gesture of unity. They thought they were sending a powerful public relations message to the media. But in the cold, ruthless legal framework of collective bargaining, they were actually signing a blank check and handing it directly to the 7 millionaires on the executive committee. They essentially handed over the keys to their own financial survival to a group of executives who do not share their working-class reality. Listen to the devastating, unfiltered truth about exactly what that strike authorization vote actually meant, and why the rank-and-file players are currently terrified of the monster they accidentally created.
Changed their mind since it seems that some players have finally realized, I gave up all my leverage when I authorized the strike. Players, as soon as you gave the executive committee all the power to strike
As soon as you gave the executive committee the power to strike, you instantly, permanently lost all of your individual leverage. This is the absolute, unvarnished trap of labor union politics that destroys working-class athletes. You have to understand the massive, unbridgeable financial chasm that exists between the union leadership and the average WNBA roster. The executive committee of the WNBA is primarily composed of the highest-earning, most financially insulated superstar veterans in the entire global market. Players like Nneka Ogwumike and Breanna Stewart have massive, multi-million-dollar endorsement deals with international shoe brands. They have deep, heavily diversified investment portfolios. They have equity stakes in secondary leagues like Unrivaled. They can easily afford to sit out an entire season, forfeit their WNBA salaries, and comfortably wait out a billionaire ownership group in order to secure a historic 27% revenue share that secures their legacy. Their risk profile is completely asymmetrical to the rest of the league, but the vast, overwhelming 80% majority of the WNBA is composed of role players, defensive specialists, and young athletes who rely entirely, 100%, on their base league salaries to pay their mortgages, fund their off-season training, and feed their families. When those working-class players voted to authorize the strike, they legally surrendered their voices to a committee of millionaires. Now, as the March 10th deadline looms like an executioner's blade, and the reality of missed paychecks and canceled health insurance becomes a terrifying certainty, the role players are actively rebelling. They are looking at the executive committee and demanding to know why they are risking total financial ruin and the loss of free team-provided housing just to fight for gross revenue percentages that will not materialize for half a decade. And this internal civil war is no longer a closely guarded boardroom secret. It is actively, violently spilling out into the public domain, exposing the deep, toxic fractures within the union's foundation. In corporate warfare, the ownership groups employ elite psychological profilers and financial analysts to monitor every single public statement made by the opposition. They do not care about the official union press releases. They search for the weak link. They listen for the cracks in the armor. Listen to the brilliant, completely unfiltered analysis of veteran guard Lexi Brown's recent public statements, and why her open defiance is the exact, catastrophic breach in the hull that the owners have been patiently waiting to exploit.
Lexi Brown's fed up with the executive committee. Lexi Brown is one of those players that said, no, I'm not authorizing a strike.
Lexi Brown is completely fed up with the executive committee. She is openly stating on the record that the players do not agree on everything, completely shattering the meticulously crafted illusion of a unified front. In a labor standoff, unity is the only currency the workforce possesses. When a highly respected, veteran player like Lexi Brown publicly indicates that she is not willing to authorize a strike, she instantly becomes the voice of the silent, terrified majority. She represents the dozens of players who are too afraid of locker room retaliation to speak out against the union leadership, but are desperately praying in secret to accept the owner's current offer just to guarantee their upcoming paychecks. The WNBA owners watched Lexi Brown's statements ripple across the internet, and they immediately recognized that their master plan of prolonged silence and intense deadline pressure was working flawlessly. The owners did not just stumble into this leverage, they mathematically engineered it. They intentionally ignored the union's primary proposals for 6 entire weeks specifically to induce this exact type of internal psychological rot. They knew that if they compressed the timeline, starved the players of official communication, and let the anxiety fester, the union would eventually turn on itself. And to guarantee that the players completely, unconditionally capitulate, the owners have constructed a logistical nightmare that essentially acts as a financial loaded gun, pointed directly at the free agency market. The owners have laid out a strict, terrifying timeline for the month of April. They formally informed the players that if a deal is verbally agreed to by March 10th, but not officially signed and ratified until March 31st, the entire structure of the league must be built from scratch in an impossibly short 13-day window. Listen to the sheer chaotic madness of the proposed April schedule and exactly how the owners specifically designed this compressed timeline to completely strip the players of any negotiating power during free agency.
Begins. The WNBA draft will be held on April 13th. It will be the wild, wild west of WNBA free agency in the offseason. It would be nuts. It would also force players to think fast.
It would be the absolute wild west of WNBA free agency. Let us break down the brutal, cutthroat mechanics of what that 13-day timeline actually means for the mental health and the financial stability of a professional athlete. If free agency is violently compressed into a frantic 4-day window directly preceding the WNBA draft and the opening of training camps, the players have absolutely zero leverage to negotiate. In a standard, healthy free agency period, an elite player has weeks to visit different cities, court multiple general managers, leverage multiple offers against each other, and carefully review the complex legal language of a multi-year contract. But in the owner's manufactured, panic-inducing April timeline, there is no time to think, there is no time to strategize. General managers will call a player's agent, offer them a non-negotiable, take-it-or-leave-it contract, and give them exactly 4 hours to accept it before they permanently pull the offer and move on to the next desperate player on their empty depth chart. It is an exploding offer implemented on a massive, league-wide scale of psychological terror. Take the money right this exact second, or you do not have a job, you do not have health insurance, and your career is over when training camp opens next week. The owners have brilliantly, ruthlessly engineered a scenario where the players will be so panicked, so utterly desperate to secure a roster spot in the highly lucrative Caitlin Clark economy, that they will blindly sign whatever contract the general managers slide across the table. The executive committee of the Players Union led their membership directly into a massive, highly sophisticated corporate slaughterhouse, and the players are finally realizing that their leadership has absolutely no exit strategy. The union executives are stubbornly clinging to their utopian demands for 27% of gross revenue, completely ignoring the terrifying reality that 80% of their membership is currently unemployed, uninsured, and facing the most chaotic, compressed free agency period in the history of global sports. And the absolute most ironclad rule of business is that whenever a labor union completely fails to protect the immediate, vital financial interests of its members, a much more powerful, ruthless, and highly motivated entity always steps into the vacuum to seize control. In the multi-billion-dollar infrastructure of professional sports, that entity is the sports agent. Sports agents do not care about union solidarity. They do not care about collective bargaining theories, Marxist labor struggles, or long-term revenue-sharing percentages. An elite sports agent has a strict, legally binding fiduciary duty to secure maximum immediate capital and job security for their specific individual clients. Listen to the absolute most damning, definitive proof that the WNBA Players Association has completely lost control of its own membership, and how the agents are currently executing a highly coordinated soft coup against the union leadership.
Tuesday's meeting, a group of more than 10 agents representing players of varying standing sent out their own letter to union leadership, offering to help in whatever way might be necessary to get a deal done. I think the number of players...
More than 10 highly powerful sports agents sent a formal letter to the union leadership, offering to step in and help get a deal done. In the heavily guarded, highly political, and deeply secretive world of sports labor disputes, agents absolutely never intervene in a collective bargaining negotiation unless the house is actively burning to the ground. When 10 different power agents, representing players across all financial tiers and talent levels, officially bypass the standard communication channels and directly inject themselves into the union's business, it means their cell phones are ringing off the hook with clients screaming at them in pure panic. The players are calling their agents at 2 in the morning, realizing that the executive committee's strategy is marching them straight off a financial cliff, and they are demanding that the agents fix the problem immediately. This is a massive, unprecedented, completely devastating vote of no confidence against Nneka Ogwumike, Breonna Stewart, and the entire union leadership structure. The agents are executing a highly coordinated, back-channel intervention. They are essentially kicking down the door of the union boardroom and telling the executives, "Your public relations strategy has failed catastrophically. The owners called your bluff. Our clients have mortgages to pay. They desperately need the free housing concessions the owners offered, and they are absolutely not willing to sacrifice their careers for your strike. You will accept the current deal on the table, or we will publicly instruct our clients to revoke their strike authorization votes, completely destroy your remaining leverage on national television, and negotiate our own individual contracts with the owners." The billionaire ownership groups won the war without ever having to fire a single shot. They simply set a hard, unyielding deadline, presented the logistical nightmare of an empty league, and watched the union tear itself to shreds from the inside out. The players who voted for a strike out of sheer emotion and locker room groupthink are now experiencing the brutal, unforgiving reality of corporate physics. The Caitlin Clark economy is the greatest financial miracle the WNBA has ever seen, but the veteran players completely miscalculated their own value within it. They tried to hold the Golden Goose hostage to extract a ransom, and the billionaires simply locked the doors and waited for the players to run out of oxygen. What is your completely unvarnished, highly analytical take on this massive internal collapse? Do you believe the executive committee committed sheer labor malpractice by leading the working-class players into a strike threat they could not afford to execute? Or are the rank-and-file players panicking and giving up too early? And more importantly, does the unprecedented, highly aggressive intervention of the 10 sports agents officially signal that the WNBA Players Association has completely surrendered to the billionaire owners? Drop your completely unfiltered, brutal analysis in the comments section below. If you want the uncompromising truth about the real business, the real strategy, and the real cutthroat corporate politics of professional sports, hit that subscribe button, brutally smash the like button, and turn on the bell notification so you never miss a deep dive. We do not do mainstream media fluff on this channel. We expose the leverage, we follow the internal union mutinies, and we reveal the terrifying mathematical reality behind the press conferences. I will see you all in the next breakdown.